Hello, welcome to Flooring Models. Today we are looking at some new paints. Now, a bit of backstory to this. We've been looking at Steindl Reds. Now, Steindl Reds, this stuff here, has been a breath of fresh air, a massive leap in the hobby as far as I'm concerned. It's taken all the worries out of primers, and to be honest, I cannot fault this stuff. Absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. I've been spraying it using a 0.2 needle, a 0.4 needle, and had no real difference. Okay, so I know a lot of people saying about it needs to be in a bigger needle for best results. I haven't had any problem with it. I've been using it over particularly nasty finishes, and it smooths everything out. I have no problem with it at all. It dries within half an hour. You can do whatever you like to it. Within 10 minutes you can sand it. That's the beautiful thing about this stuff. But generally I haven't found anything that would put me off of this stuff, and I haven't found anything that it doesn't like either. I've used it over certain paints you're going to see coming up in an upcoming review, which are a little bit fragile, shall we say, and then obviously I've been using them with AK's liner metallizer paints. I've been using them obviously with Tamiya, with Vallejo, with everybody, and I've had no problem with it. This primer is absolutely gold dust. Go and get yourself some. Okay, now the very nice people at Barwell Bodyworks, they are the Badger people here in the UK. They're stockists of it. They did have a lot of stock until obviously the Flory effect took part, but I am rest assured that they're going to get more stocks in and everything else. Anyway, it's a bit of a thank you and probably a bit of a plug. They've sent me some other bits and pieces just to have a play at, because as I say, I've never used their other stuff before, so I wouldn't know. And to be honest, Badger, I know, make airbrushes, but that's as far as it went. I used to have a Badger airbrush. I don't now, admittedly. It was probably best part of 15-20 years ago, but certainly from my point of view, I thought obviously they've sent them down, we're going to give it a go, see what they're like. Okay, now the paints that we've got down here are acrylic. And they come in sets just like this. So down here, this particular one, we've spoken about it before, they tend to do them in sets. So number 1701 is railroad rolling stock colours. Okay, 1702 is scenery and structural colours. 1703 is railroad private car colours. Okay, 1704, which this one is, okay, is military colours, so it'd be interesting to see what colours they are. Okay, and then you've got 1705 is automotive colours, and then 1706 is weathering colours, which I do believe is this one. So we've got down here military colours and automotive colours, which we're going to have a go at with it in a minute. We've also been sent this range of paints down here as well. Now this tends to be your sort of games workshop-y type colours. You know, as I say, I'm not up on them. I haven't done my homework on this. This is really literally just going to get them out and try them. Never put them through an airbrush before. But down in here you've got things like fresh cut grass. We've got Angelic Blood. We've got one I can't pronounce, so I won't do it. Bark colour. We've got Snow White, Raven Black. What else have we got down here? Lagoon Blue. And then we've got iridescent yellow. Okay, we've got a base grey, we've got a gun alloy, and then we've got antique gold, and last up going to be ghost tint, which is oil discharge. Okay, so some interesting colours, shall we say. So also down here, it's been spoken about before about obviously I use a 0.2 needle. Okay, and when I did speak to actually Badger in USA, I've had contact with them direct after I did the review. They did tell me that for better effects and for sort of ease of use and all the rest of it, might be better upping the needle size. Okay, so what I've done is I've fitted now permanently. This has got a 0.4 needle set completely in my old Evo, which is best part of 20 years old, as we know, and in my Infinity, I've got both of my Infinities. I've got two of them. I've got the CR Plus, this is the normal one. This is just the standard 0.2 needle that I use for absolutely everything. Okay, so the easiest way to tell apart, obviously, the one without the red is 0.4, red is a 0.2 needle in there. So we've got Buster, again, bless him, he's in for another coat of paint. So what we're going to do is have a go with these as I would. Now, as I said, I haven't done any homework on this. I'm not sure what the best thinner is. I'm not sure what it works best with and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some X20A thinners. We've got obviously some Airbrush Cleaner, because I know certain acrylics love that stuff as well. Okay, and some other types of thinners, and we're just going to play with them and see exactly what we get. Okay, so having a look down at these, first of all, these are the actual normal colours. These are the military colours they're saying. It's saying water-based acrylic, as we knew they were anyway. Shake well, which I imagine you have to, because apparently this colour here is dark green, and as we can see it does look very blue. And they say it's first time, oh, we're sealed units, okay, fair enough. Which these are always a pain as well, because they always never come off nicely. as you can see, it doesn't look very green to me. So what we're going to do is, this is the only trouble with these tops, they don't come off cleanly and then they're going to leak. Okay, so I'm covered in it already. So we can see we've got quite a bit of shaking to do in here, which is probably something I should have thought about first. But again, now, something you need to know about me as a modeler. Okay, I model because I enjoy it. Okay, I am not a martyr. I've been doing it full time now as my job for the last 20 odd years, and all the rest of it. So because when it's your job, you just want stuff that you can get off the shelf and you can just paint with. Now, for many months now, and say even years, we seem to have a flurry of new companies coming out releasing paints. Okay. Now, I've always been one of these people who, my first choice would always be Tamiya. I love Tamiya paints, I think they're absolutely fine. Okay, second choice would normally be the Guns range. So obviously I go for the hobby colour range, obviously being acrylic. Absolutely love their paints, everything else. Bit tricky trying to get them in the UK. After that, it's Vallejo. Obviously I love their paint, straightforward, straight out of the bottle, and away you go, okay? After that, things get a little bit iffy, all right? They're my go-to paints. I have other paints, you can see them down there in the range, or perhaps not, but at the other end, I've got a range of Italeri type paints. I've got obviously Model Master type paints down there. I've got Polyscale. I've got everybody's, okay? My problem is to it though, is that literally I want a paint where I can just grab it off the shelf, tip it in my airbrush, and I spray it, and I know what I'm gonna get at the end. I don't want a paint where I have to basically namby-pamby it. You know, I want something, I pull the trigger, paint comes out, put down colour, put it down, change the colour, next one, and we move through. I don't want to be down here putting down gentle coats, almost babysitting the paint to try and get it down onto the model, just because I don't know. That's the point. My point to it is, why am I then, I'm not going to go through whose manufacturers they are and all the rest of it, but you know the ones where you have to build up very gentle layers and bring them through. Or I can just grab anybody of my standard paints I've got here, chuck it on, and I'm done. So what takes me half an hour of namby-pamby and babysitting a paint to get it on, I grab Tamiya, chuck it down, job's done, I've moved forward. And also, from my point of view of flow and enjoying the hobby, I'm not stuck with a paint I have to really worry about. So I'm playing with air pressures, I'm trying to get the right consistency, I'm trying to do this, trying to do that. I am old school, grab it, chuck it on your model, clean your airbrush, move on, okay? And that's the way I actually work it. So some of these new paints that have come along, I do wonder why people have rushed out and bought them, because I've got the colours. I don't need any others. I know what works. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody suddenly come out with an amazing range, which, you know, I wish somebody would, of like Russian colours and things like that, then absolutely that's fine. Now, I know there are the ones out there, and I have got them down here before everyone says, but you're forgetting of things like ACAN paints. I've got a full set of ACANs as well. I do like ACANs. My point to it is, though, they're pre-weathered. So I like to weather my own way. So they're not exactly what I would call brilliant, okay? Again, people did worry about how they worked and all the rest of it, and you have to babysit the paint. I didn't have any trouble with theirs, I must admit. It's one of my better ones. But for Russian colours, obviously I'm an acrylic guy. I'll go down the ACAN route. I do like their colours. It's just, as I say, I'd rather it's just the standard Russian colour and I can light and fade it as we go. Now, as I've been waffling, hopefully we've gone green. Oh my lordy lordy, okay. So we've got a little bit mushy in here. Now, the reason it's done this is because it is an acrylic. Another thing to learn about, this is now leaking everywhere, is that acrylic obviously means water-based, okay? So, all right, we're just gonna get this everywhere. The thing is, being water-based, it makes them very easy to clean up and all the rest of it. But some things aren't quite what they read. If you notice, all of these up here have got fire labels on them. Well, if you're thinking if it's water-based, why would it be flammable? Okay, well, the thing is, these aren't true water-based paints. They are acrylic, but it's a synthetic acrylic, okay? They are more like a lacquer paint, all right? It doesn't have quite the nasty properties as a true lacquer paint has, but certainly they're probably more likely to be a lacquer if you were just doing it between A and B, okay, where are they gonna go, than they would be a true acrylic. True acrylics tend to do things like this. So, bit messy off the bat, I must admit, we're covered in it already. But the thing is, with acrylics, they tend to be more, you know, water-based, so they're going to froth up more. They're going to be not like a paint. It's not like opening up a tin of paint at home, all right? So anyway, here we have this. So what we're going to do, first of all, I had great ideas of tipping it and pouring it. We're just going to get a little bit out here, and we're just going to put a bit in a colour cup. Okay, now the idea of putting it in here is so I can see it. Messy, messy, messy. Okay, so straight off the bat, I'm not impressed with that. but I was almost expecting it. So looking down in here, I don't know how well you can see it. Where's my little pointer? I've got blue in here. Now I was shaking that for a good few minutes and I can still see blue running around in here. You might catch it in the light. You've got various blues. This is purely where it hasn't totally mixed. I wouldn't be surprised if there was still some thick stuff down in there, but we've actually turned into a mousse, okay, which isn't exactly brilliant. Now I'm just trying to run it on the sides so you guys can see it as well. Doesn't look like it's too bad. It's got quite good coverage. As this drags back, this is a bit like your wine tasting now, guys. You know, you test the alcohol by what's stuck to the glass. Very much you can check the pigment and to see what it's like by what's stuck to the glass as well. So if we turn it around here, you can actually see there's no real grittiness into it, which is always a good sign. All right, and it's starting to go back, and it's got quite a lot of cling to it, so you've actually got quite a lot of pigment in the actual paint. The bit where it falls down really quickly, like a poster paint, it means it hasn't got much paint in there at all. So it's a bit like doing your wine tasting. Now we'll check its bouquet. And again, it has a real true acrylic smell because there's nothing nasty about it. It smells like kids' poster paints. Okay, so from a point of view, you're thinking that's probably very good. All right, so what we're going to try now is just a simple job of just going to try it. First of all, we're going to try it neat. Then we're going to try it with various different thinners. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try it through a 0.2 first, because obviously this would be my chosen way of doing it. So I'm just going to turn down my air pressure. So my working air pressure is around about 18-20 psi. Okay, with a 0.2. So what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to fill up my entire colour cup full of this and make it all horrible, I'm just going to pour a tiny bit here in the can. You might be able to see we've got separation on here as well. We've got blue around the top, which isn't a good sign. But again, it's acrylic, that's what acrylics do. So I'm just going to put in 0.5 ml just in the top here, just like that. Then we're going to grab a bit of paper towel for a moment. All right, and we're just going to see what happens when we try and spray it. There we got a pretty nice flow. Not sure about the colour. Actually, that doesn't look too bad at all. So let's try them on a piece of styrene sheet, which I thought I had here. What have I done with my styrene sheet? Here it is. Okay, so what we've got here is a piece of neat styrene sheet. Okay, so we'll just check our flow. Okay, then we're going to come over here. Oh, it's covered in dust. Okay, we're just going to spray this around. Okay, it's not too bad, I must admit, but looking down at it, we don't have particularly good coverage. We're at the limit of what this can do. As you can see, we've got spitting in here, so we've got dotted lines. That's where it's having trouble atomizing it and getting it out, okay? Then over here, where we've done up and back, you can see we've got spidering. Okay, now what this actually tells me is that it's having a hard time atomizing it. It's too thick, okay? But if I turn up the air pressure any more than what we've got, we're going to get spidering and it's not going to cover particularly well, okay? So that's literally all that test tells me. So now I'm going to just try and do a little bit of colouring in, just to see what we got, how well this covers. Bearing in mind we're spraying this neat, guys, so don't think we're playing too much with this. So we're just going to take in a little square here. Just upping the ante a little bit, just to see what we can do. Don't forget, this isn't primed, so don't take any notice of speckling over here, because that's just literally where it can't cope. And there's obviously nasties on the board. So we have no smell to this whatsoever. That's a very good plus for it. I have no smell. We're going through, I'm not getting any spitting, clogging, anything else as we go in. It's covering reasonably well. Okay, what I'm going to do is flood this area and just see what happens. So we're going in very heavy, flooding it down now. I want to see how much this has got and how much it levels. So if we catch it in the light, Get a light shimmer off of this guy. Come on, gotta get one somewhere. There we go-ish. You can see, got the orange peely going on, but that's because we're high air pressure, very, very close. But generally it is covering, going down quite nicely. So actually, I'm not massively impressed with it. You know, it's not Tamiya, it's not Guns, it's not Vallejo, but from a point of view of an acrylic, neat out the bat. Bearing in mind, I think it's still probably a little bit thick down the bottom, so if you have mixed it really well, you may need to thin it. That's actually not too bad. It's just that because we've got the moussey stuff at the top, I know it's going to be thinner. By the time this settles down, we'll be in a different ball game. But you can see this is turning blue on the top. So you're always going to have to mix this, I think, quite a lot, okay? So what I'm going to do now is untangle myself. We're just going to try what I think is going to be the best. I'm going to put a drop of Airbrush Cleaner in with this into a separate one so we can see what's going on. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of this out. I'm just going to put a tiny few drops of Airbrush Cleaner down in here. Now the thing with using Airbrush Cleaner is that Airbrush Cleaner breaks down paint extremely well. What it also does, because Airbrush Cleaner's got cleaners and various things in there as well that lube your airbrush, it makes the paint flow extremely well. And you might notice now on the side, it's still got it all there, but you notice it's dragging back a lot quicker. So Airbrush Cleaner actually works extremely well as a thinner in acrylic paint, okay? My only trouble is, every time you do this, you get blue on the top, and I don't know why we're getting blue. Okay, so we'll just take that off of there. Okay, we're just going to empty this guy out. And we're just going to refill with our new stuff. Come on, flip, that's it. Okay, so this is Airbrush Cleaner in here now. So we just blow through what we had. Now immediately we've got a lighter colour, but then obviously it's thin, so we'd expect that. Okay, and we're just going to try it and repeat. As you can see, it's a lot thinner. You know, probably over thinned it a little bit, if we're honest. Okay, so we're just going to try a... We haven't had any clogging, spitting, any nasties whatsoever. It's just that the trouble is with all true acrylics, they don't have the bite and the capability like the synthetics do. The synthetics, i.e. Tamiya Guns, it's a thicker paint, it's got a larger, stronger pigment base to it. So when that goes down, it gives you a very strong colour right off of the bat. When you're using Vallejos, you notice, especially obviously the Model Air ones, being the black top, they're pre-thinned, they don't have quite the coverage, but 2 coats tends to do it. Whereas Tamiya Guns, you might just get away with just 1, all right? But generally, we have had no spitting, nothing whatsoever, no problems with the airbrush. So I'm just going to flood it down now, just do a flood test. But you can imagine, you're going to have to do lots of coats to get near this, okay? So from that point of view, I don't think it's going to be particularly brilliant for doing your painting, all right? So what I'm going to do is just empty this guy. No problem at all. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to rinse and repeat with a 0.4 just to see what we get out of it as well. Because some paints prefer a bigger section. So what we're going to do, we're going to do neat again, it's gone blue on the top. And again, we're just going to pop that off. Okay, put this in. So 0.4. Again, no problem with it flowing. Nicely done. And then we're just going to try it on here. Struggling a bit, so I'm just going to up the air pressure. No problem with that at all. Okay, and then we're just going to try a bit of colouring in. Again, you can see quite clearly, thinned, unthinned. Okay, so now we're just going to try this with a 0.4. no problem at all. To be honest, I think it's probably working better in the 0.4 than it is the 0.2, but we are getting build up. You can probably see on my finger, if I can get it to come off, we are getting slight build up on the actual needle itself, so you're going to have to keep your needle clean at all times. Okay, pretty happy with how that is. Again, it's on the very raggedy edge. You've still got spitting, okay, and then if you double up, you do get the splurges coming in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump that, so it won't take much at all. And we try the thin again. You can see blue floating around the top, tells me it's separating. Again, we just hose through. Okay. I'm just going to come in and repeat. Again, you can see very thin, very pale compared to what we had up here. Okay, by thinning it down, and again, it's that thing. It's a paint you have to babysit, give multiple coats, and just be careful how you go with it all. Otherwise, you come in and you're going to do this. See, you can make a complete mess because it is wet, okay, and all the rest of it. So just be careful how you're using this, as opposed to the thicker stuff doesn't move. When it's thin, it's always going to move, okay. So we're going to give it a quick thin test just to see what works, what doesn't with this one. So all we're going to do is we're going to grab a different colour. Let's try what we've got, Camouflage Grey. They're weird colours as well, because you've got olive drab, field drab, forest green, so you've got various greens and stuff like that to make up the sort of, you know, Vietnam era Southeast Asia colour scheme, but you don't have the brown. So, but we've got sand armour, grey, I don't know what that is, medium green. Let's take a grey, just have a see what we can get to work with this. But what I think we're all agreed here is this isn't Steindl Reds. This is not as nice. Alright, so just give this a bit of a shake, and I'm aware obviously time's going on here and you're all being bored to death unless I edit all this out. Like this one here, this has got dry paint on the outside of it. I haven't even opened it. So it's leaking already. Nice, okay. Right. Now, like I've got half a bottle here. It's been leaking. Okay, right. This looks a lot thicker. Mind you, there's not a lot left in it. Okay. But this is a lot thicker, very thick indeed. Okay, so what I want to do is just a couple of tests just to see what we can thin this thing with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is your traditional Vallejo Thinner, okay, which I use all the time. So in one, so what I'm going to do is, because this is a lot thicker than I thought, two of them. So when you drop this in, you can see it's not dissolving. It is, but it's not coming apart really easy. Alright, so we'll just give this a mix up. Now usually I use a brush, but I want to show you guys what this stuff's doing. So I'm just going to, just to see, I don't have to put it through an airbrush to know what this is going to do, but you can see good colour, it's holding on to it, it's thinned it, we've got no bits in there. Okay, so obviously this thinner works really, really well. Okay, the idea is you drop it up and then let it come back, and it should come down the glass like milk. You don't want to see lumps, bumps or streaks in it. Okay, and then look at the bottom of your cup. Hopefully, if we do it off the other camera, you may be able to see. It's nice and smooth. Okay, so that actually is a really nice thinner. It likes it, it works extremely well. Okay, so next we'll try a little bit of X20A. Okay, just grab a bit of this. Okay, now X20A is my chosen thinner of choice. I've been using it since day one for acrylics and absolutely love it. Okay, so what we'll do, just sitting down here, and we're just going to, it's the thick one. You can see the same thing, it just sits, it doesn't fizz or anything else like that, it just sits down there, and then we can agitate it and wake it up. Okay, just give it a bit of a swill. Take it out the side, drag it down. Again, pretty much on the par of our other one. Nothing in that. That's worked really well as well, no problem at all. So that, obviously that's X20A. And our last one, I'm just going to take a drop. And this is self-leveling thinners, okay? So this is a lacquer. Alright, so it stinks, it's smelly, it's horrible, but God, is it good stuff. Paint loves it. Well, some paints, some don't. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to do here. I'm going to put down 3 drops, again, just as we did before. Okay, you can see it's not fizzing up, bubbling, or anything else like that. Okay. And as you can see, slightly different. This isn't melting at all. Okay, and you might see it's gritty on the top, but what will happen is you'll get particle breakdown in a minute. It'll start to fizz as it breaks it down. Okay, now you might look on the sides. You can see we've got lumps, bumps. Okay, give them a good old mix. Okay. Now, you can see the difference. If we run it around the edges of the glass, you will see bits stuck to it everywhere. Okay? Now the thing with this is because this is lacquer. Now lacquer will thin everything given enough. The thing is though, you put so much thinner in, it doesn't cover very well at all. So this definitely tells me this is a proper acrylic paint. It is water based. It doesn't like mixing with obviously a lacquer based. It will do it because it's starting to do it now, but you can see it's doing it badly. It doesn't like it. It's not like one of these which is nice and smooth. This has got lumps and bumps and gritty. Okay, you can see it's got no real bite to it either, or anything else like that. So don't come near this with any of your hot products, i.e. lacquer type ones. Tamiya X20A obviously is a lacquer based product because again, I think it's flammable. Yeah, it's flammable and all the rest of it. Whereas obviously the Vallejo one isn't, okay, because this is a synthetic lacquer. It's close enough to it from a particle point of view, but obviously the Airbrush Cleaner, Airbrush Thinner by Vallejo, that one isn't flammable because it's not as synthetic as X20A. So there we go, that's those paints. You know, again, it's a paint, I think you have to babysit it. It's not something I would run out and use and go on with all those things because obviously that's what it is. Hand painting could be a completely different ball game. The last one I want to try is these, purely because I love the colours. Let's have a real one. So this is Angelic Blood. And I imagine this is going to be thick and it's going to be sticky and it's going to be pretty horrible, if we're honest, okay? But these types of things I think are more designed for your hand painters. Again, it's sealed tops, which never come off in one bit. Again, very full bottles, which is nice. Okay, so let's just stick that back on. Okay, and then what we're going to do is hoof some of this. God, it even comes out like blood. Okay, as you can see, we were talking about this is very thick. Okay. So that's the type of thing we were talking about. Again, depending obviously on the paint, depends on the thickness of it. This one looks like it'd be great for hand painting because it just has great coverage. This has got no run back on this cup at all. Okay, so let's just try a little bit of thinners because we know this thinner will work well in here. Give this a clean. Okay. Beautiful, very nice, strong, vibrant colour. You can see it's got no real drag off of the, it covers extremely well, as you can see just down there. So what I'm going to do is load up 0.2. I don't think we need to get Buster covered in all this stuff because, if we're honest, come on, you know you're going to come out. We're going to risk it. Good job. So very nice. Okay. Really nice cover. Okay, and we're just going to try and this down. Don't forget, this isn't primed. You should always prime and everything else like that. Okay. Again, it's being affected. You can see this spotting. This is purely because there's oils, grease, and horrible things all over this, and this is why you should always prime your work. Okay, but again, there's not much coverage down on here. It's not exactly brilliant. Okay, and all the rest of it. I think really, if I'm honest, I don't like these. They're okay, but you have to babysit the paint. That's what we're talking about. These guys, I think, are more for probably your hand painters and stuff like that, because it does look particularly nice. Okay, and just to give some balance to all of this, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to clean out the airbrush. Let that out. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is clean out. They're beautiful. They clean out very, very well. Okay, and just to give a little bit of balance and the reasons why I do things and don't do things and things like that, is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a colour. I don't know, something that's going to show up. Let's do it. Here's the guy. This bottle is brand new. Bought it, I don't know, last week. It's sat on the shelf, hasn't done anything. Okay, so the chances are it's thick down the bottom, is on top. It's probably on a par with any one of these. Okay, so we're just going to shake this. Okay, take the top off. You can see it's new. There's no crust, anything else like that. Okay, and I'm going to do roughly what we just done in all of these tests. So we've put a bit down there. Okay, then we're just going to come along, check our flow. This is neat. Okay, and we can just come in. You might notice I can come in and do everything, but it's a lot stronger. Don't forget, this is neat. Haven't thinned it yet, and we know Tamiya loves to be around about 50-50, so we know that works. Okay, exactly the same on here. So, okay, as you can see, it's a little bit speckly. Probably do with a little bit more, but it's all down there. But if I want to cover, this is the 0.2, don't forget. I can come down in here, and I'm on full pull with the trigger, and I can cover like this, no problem at all. All right, so literally grab a color, give it a shake, put it down, put it on. If I want to thin it, so we just grab some X20A, bearing in mind I've run out of room in my color cut big time, so I just need to blow a little bit of this through. Probably not the best idea to do this guy. Okay, so we're just going to blow through till we get to the good stuff. There we go. Okay, this is thin, 50-50. But we can come in and put down really nice, and then I can come in now and we don't have any of that spidering. I can do tighter lines and all of this good stuff right over the top. Okay, and I don't have to worry about it at all. I just pick up the paint and I put it down. So what am I really getting on about here? I'm just simply saying paints out there should be easy to use. As a modeler, like myself, you just want something where you can pick it up and use it. Now, I get a lot of modelers and they say to me that, you know, I have trouble with spitting, I have trouble with it stopping and starting, I have this, I have that, I have the other, a million one problems. Some of it, I do believe, is because the paint you're using is a particularly tricky paint to master. And this is what we're talking about. With a little bit of time, experience and everything else, I'm sure I could make these paints work just as well as everything I've got here. Okay, my problem is I don't have time to master it all, and I don't want to be flapping around. I enjoy the hobby. I've got it into a position where 9 times out of 10 I can just grab anything off of my shelves, put it on the model. I know what's going to come out like, I know it's going to be okay, and away we go. Of course, like everybody, I get problems, cock-ups, spit, spilling it and all the rest of it, which can cause you major headaches. Okay, but 9 times out of 10 I know I'm absolutely fine. I don't need to go out and buy a paint, because to be honest, I've got all of these colours up here that work, okay, and spend money and a lot of it on new paints, okay. Now don't get me wrong, I am still looking for the unicorn of metallizer paints. I want a metallizer paint that I can get, that I put in my airbrush, like I do that, I put down and it gives me a lustful metal effect, okay, without smell, problem. You know, obviously you put in hot lacquers and things through my airbrush like we do at the moment, okay? But from a point of view of colours, I think we're pretty much covered out there. What I would like to see is Tamiya and Guns to extend their ranges to include the more sort of modern things, okay? I.e. I would like to see Guns do all the Russian colours, and I would obviously like to see Tamiya just update theirs and do more modern colours and things like that. But Vallejo, good paint, usually no problem with it, but they have an Achilles heel, and Vallejo tends to be old. Once you've opened the bottle and it sits on your shelf for a couple of months, it tends to deteriorate and doesn't like to be reactivated, for want of a better word, by shaking and stuff like that. A brand new bottle of Vallejo is beautiful stuff to work with. 2 years old on your shelf, not so, okay, and everything else. But certainly from a Guns point of view, a Tamiya point of view, and a Vallejo, they are my go-to paints. I do like ACAM paints as well. They work really well. I haven't had a problem. I know lots of people do. Again, I think it's because I spray at a higher air pressure than most people. A lot of people do the old school 10 to 15 psi. I'm more like 18 to 25 psi, okay? I spray at the high end of the spectrum. It's how I prefer to work. But basically, you know, my conclusion to this is, any paint will work. It's just going to take you a little bit of time to master it. Finding your correct air pressure, finding your correct thinner is pretty much the basics for it. After that, you've got environmental issues, i.e. humidity that you're spraying at, the temperature you're spraying at can affect your spray pattern and obviously how it comes out on your model. I'm not saying this is a bad paint, but certainly it's a paint that you're going to have to learn to use and work with. These guys over here, I think for hand painting would be absolutely fantastic because they've got very strong, very rich, vibrant colours. But unfortunately for me, these ones here are pretty much a no-no. So there we go. Thanks for sticking with me through this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed bringing it to you, and happy painting.